Well, I am Jeremy Farrance. I work at a place called Acuity Solutions in central Illinois. And today I'm going to do a Too Sexy demo, which of course I think is pretty interesting. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
All right, good. Let me get these Zoom things out of my way. Sorry. All right, so what you're looking at here is one of our clients' websites, and they do really high-end photography. He's a residential architect that specializes in high-end new homes and renovations. So he actually builds houses like these that you see here. We built him a somewhat advanced portfolio of projects so that we could focus on um, the architecture, the photography, the images, really show off what's going on here. This house in particular is jaw-dropping. It's on a lake, and it was originally owned, if you recognize the actor and actress's names. I remember the movie Cocoon in the 80s, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin. This is not what their house looked like. This is after the renovation, but this property on a lake was an amazing project, and that's the architect there. Anyhow, what we're looking at today is the gallery feature. So we're going to switch to this smaller project and show you this gallery in Too Sexy. Here's what the home page looks like. It's set up so that you see a different image in here about every 10 minutes. Um, we do the reminder for editors up here when you're logged in so that you can see that if you're not logged in, you ain't going to see your new picture for at least 10 minutes. So anyhow, here is what the gallery looks like to the public after you've drilled down to it. And here's what it looks like when you're logged in as an editor. And we, remind people about the various features and how things work. But what I want to get at here is to show people, see these features you can edit here, where this one's sort order of 300, sort order 500. This one's visible. This one's featured. And the featured ones are the ones that show up in here. So just these three are featured. And these are done as metadata on library images. So I've kind of jumped ahead. So now I'm going to back up and show you um, for each image that is in this library. Let's go all the way back to here. And I'll just show you the setup. And I'm not really showing you a setup we made. It's a setup we enhanced, but we're in the gallery app in Too Sexy. So there's an album, and each of the albums is using library images. So see the input type of library here? And the name of the field is images. So when you go into one of these albums, like Lakefront Cape Remodel, all of the images are dragged and dropped into this one folder. And then each of these can have metadata. And what I'm pointing out is when you click on this, it's the same feature you saw when we were on the page. We've gone to this set of metadata for each image. And this is a really fascinating feature because you're doing a fairly complex database setup here. All of your images are ending up kind of in this obscure library folder, yet they still have the ability to have metadata attached. Every single image can have its own sort order, its own usage and notes and so forth. So I wanted to show you now that we've kind of explained that a little. Now that we're back on the page over here, these three images are featured on the main page for the Craftsman Carriage Lodge. I'm going to show you that I can go in here, edit, and I'm going to take that first pretty picture and I'm going to say normal and hit OK. Now caching is probably going to mess me up, but I'll live with it. And now it appeared over here because I think I have a requirement of 3 images. So let's change the order of these so that, not that one. Let's change that one. So it's 500. And now these two will swap if that makes sense. But this is metadata. And what I'm really trying to point out here is, I'm going to go back in here. Come on. This metadata is a content type. So as you can see, this set of fields here for usage, that's where we're coming up with our normal, our featured, and our hide, meaning hidden from public, and we don't show it anymore. And our sort order is just a number. We kind of train the clients. We default at 500. We do 100 to 999, and we tell people to go by tens so that you can hit an in-between someday when you want to. And then removed is an advanced Boolean. That's when the architect tells us, I don't ever want anyone to see that photo. And you set that Boolean to true, and it's been removed. And we also warn them. I'll show you in here, actually. If you turn that on, it says removed. Once you click save, only Accurity can find and restore it. You probably are using the usage feature above and just set it to hidden. All right, so now that I've kind of over-described what's going on with the metadata here, each image has a record, its own metadata in this content type. And what's really fascinating about this is that content type, let's hit edit here and show you, that content type's name is, no spaces, album, images, library. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. This is the one I should have clicked on. Album, images, library, metadata. And that is a setting in the fields for library content types. So you go to here and you do album, images, library, metadata, and that tells TwoSexy that this content type is your metadata for each image. So I'm going to switch this to extended. I made another content type with a lot more fields, just as a fun experiment. So that one's set now. I'll show you in that we now have location categories. So it's an exterior front view of the house, exterior back view, family room, living room, interior, exterior view, interior staircase. You can specify the photographer because these are very high-end paid photos. I kid you not, some of these photo sets cost over $10,000 for the photographer to come out and do them. We also like to know per image what the quality level is, and we have a fairly extensive system here for poor, not usable, and that's actually something we'll recognize in code, and it's an additional thing to hide the image. We have 3 or 4 different ways to hide the image. But once this is up by a photographer, it's good, better, best, outstanding, and money shot is the term the architect came up with. There's about 7 photos across his library of thousands, which we consider money shots. This one's an example. That's a money shot. It's called a money shot because when people see that, that makes them pick up the phone and call him to be their architect. So notice all these features here, and all I've done is in the library field type, switched this to point to my new content type. Now, when I go into the album, actually, I'm going to go, yeah, about single arts and crafts, go in here, and notice none of these have metadata yet. If I click this, now per image, I can specify the photographer. I can say the quality is, oops, that's not quality. Let me look at the picture again. The picture was exterior side view. There we go. Photographer, I don't remember who that is. Quality on this one was photographer, but not quite. Actually, this was not a photographer. This was done with an old digital camera, if I remember correctly. It's not an interior, it's an exterior. It is the original. It has not been edited. Uh, Ralph said, don't feature this one. He actually did in a recent meeting. And another feature that hasn't been used yet, but the original file name is often pretty important. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but I have a dog here with a toy who is picking now to distract me. I guess it's because I'm talking into a microphone and he thinks it's time to have fun. So anyhow, all of these items allow you to drag a bunch of photos into a library file and set up metadata, and you can curate as much as you want in the way of information. We have a new project we just got last week, which we're planning to use this feature for. It's a one of the local towns has a historical society, historical and genealogy society. Don't ask me to spell that. And they've given us literally thousands of photos. And all of these photos are tied into spreadsheets and documents. And in the spreadsheets are columns, fields of information like original document, original file name, scan date, all this other stuff. And so we are crafting a set of metadata so that we can simply let the client scan the photos, drag and drop them in here, and then put in all the metadata. So this will begin to save them time once it's used on the website. And in addition, we're going to give them ways to generate reports, and we're going to replace their cobbled together PDFs with HTML to PDF outputs, which are going to be perfect because all the data just gets entered on the first go through. So just to wrap up, I did not set my timer, so I hope I'm not going too long. But just to wrap up, one of the things, and I did part of this demo for, in-house a few weeks ago. One of the things people ask is, okay, but now if I'm in code, how do I get to the metadata? How did you get usage normal in this little tool up here when it's not appearing over here? And how did you make that toolbar edit button? And those things actually end up being pretty easy, too sexy. The people there thought of all this stuff. And if you'll notice, um, right now I'm inside a for each loop in the gallery. So I'm in an iFile data type, pick in, get my sorted images from the album, which was set at the start of this file from the ID in the URL. And you can see what's being done here. There's a Boolean flag for has metadata, and then each item has a metadata tag, and you can ask for the Boolean of removed to string if it's equal to false. That probably could have been done a little nicer, but anyhow, you have direct access to all this data with very simple coding. Each pick has metadata, and there's your description. There's your usage type with a fallback of visible. So this ended up being really productive. So we've used these metadata features on library images now on two projects and the third one that I mentioned. And I highly recommend you take a look and play with this if it matches one of your use cases, because being able to quite literally drag and drop a whole boatload of images right into a library field and then go to each image and tagged them with 3 or 9 or 20 fields of metadata. Very, very useful. And that's about all I have to say. Anyone have any questions? Anyone still there?
Is there anywhere to sort of get a a guide towards this sort of process? Like you presented an awful lot here, and if I was thinking, gee, I'd like to do this.
It's
Ah,
amazing to me. It's so cool that you said I presented an awful lot. And actually, the chain of how to use and get to the metadata, I've only shown 3 small little features in the fields in 2Sexy content types. I'd be happy to show you this on the side and talk it through. Once your head clicks on this, it's so useful.
That's
yeah,
been my
it looks
problem.
so useful indeed. Yeah.
I know it's a time saver too. Just being able to, like, one of the reasons I did this with this client is we would have these meetings and he would see one of these photos and he goes, "Why is that in there? Please promise me that will never get in there again." And so then I'd do this, and save while he's talking and be able to say, "Hey, don't worry about it. That one's never going to appear anyway again." We literally built the feature because of how he is with his photos.
What you said, Steve, is exactly how I feel about Too Sexy. I cannot get my head around it, and so I've always avoided it because of that. I've tried. In fact, the Agatha annotated started with Too Sexy, and there's a number of DNN Dave videos out there on YouTube with him and I building it. And the first thing that happened is there's a bunch of Razor script that has to get written, and so that was like, well, wait a minute. I was looking for a tool that I could fairly easily adapt without, um, writing all the programming for it. And eventually I gave it up, and that's when the light bulb went on for Easy DNN News.
Yeah, I do agree. Uh, Too Sexy is something you get through in phases. Um, I got to admit, I I often admit to this. I think the first 2.5 years that I used Too Sexy, I was lost and using features incorrectly. I think it's much easier to get into nowadays because they've stabilized the documentation so well, and there's much more modern videos out there on how to do stuff. And that's also, to be honest, one of the reasons I wanted to start these Too Sexy demos, even though I haven't done many so far in the show and tell, is just to get people a little more into it. Like I know, I think Dave's the one, he already left, um, who will never use the content app because he's never been able to get his head around the ideas in there between using blocks and adding your data in and out of blocks. And I admit it confused the heck out of me for over 2 years in the beginning. And once it clicked, oh my God, it's so useful. Being able to control what's on the page from a reservoir of other data items and swap them in and out and rearrange them and not use sort orders, so useful for ad hoc content. So
Hmm.
anyhow, I realize I say that and it probably doesn't make as much sense until you see it, but I definitely agree Too Sexy. The benefits take a little bit of effort, but man, once you get there and the light bulbs start going off, there's a lot of light bulbs.
I remember you talking about having a very, very basic little demo on DNN itself and what you do with uh, pages and panes and modules and how to lay out something and how the very basic rudimentary kind of thing. I'm wondering if a Too Sexy rudimentary demo would somebody like Steve or I that are wondering, should I even get into it?
Yeah,
Oh
that
yeah,
that is my ultimate
and what
plan. I
is the
want to do
benefit? I mean,
more.
this is
I
a
want to do more
massive
basics.
Yeah. This particular one with the architect seems like a basic thing and a lot of development for the flexibility that he has going forward, meaning that he's making a large investment in this. And, is there what does one do next? Go looking for another photographer that can benefit for some a mechanism like this because you've got all of this metadata already built. Um, the relationships between pictures and how they lay out and what kinds of categories of the pictures are and all of that. Um, or is each too sexy a one-off?
I'm going to choose not to answer that right now. Those are
That's a
good
really
questions.
hard. That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
Um, I can see like the stuff that you did there. Stuff is sort of a one-off, but I can see what Jeremy did could be applied to so many different types of projects.
Yeah.
I'm doing something that will be a website that will be a series of stories, and I want a homepage that will let me show, you know, snippets of these stories on them, and then select maybe by stories of a certain category. All those sorts of things would be embedded in the metadata. So I think there's it's sort of like it all looks different, but I think as you said, Jeremy, in some ways, once you get the idea of it, you start to realize all the different ways that you can apply these ideas.
Yeah. All Too Sexy really does is just abstract really well and really logically the way you would want to do a relational database. And that's not even fair to say. They've simplified it in a way that's really nice. But again, just saying those things gets me off topic. So let's wrap this up.
Mhm.
Um, Anyone have any other questions? Or I feel like we're at a wrap. Maybe we should talk about hitting the stop record button. I'm going to stop my share.